Welcome to the live webinar for Sport and Leisure. My name is Nancy Wall, I'm course leader for Sport Leisure.
And my name's Joe Cook, I teach full-time on Sport and Leisure as well.
So the purpose of this evening is to give you an outline of the courses we actually offer at QE and for you to ask any questions that you actually want to. Any questions whatsoever, there's no such thing as a stupid question. If you just pop it into the chat button down the bottom, we'll get to them one by one, so feel free. So an outline of what we actually offer. We offer two courses. We offer a single qualification and a double qualification. The single qualification is equivalent to one A-level over 2 years, and the double qualification is worth 2 A-levels over 2 years. On the single qualification, you'll have 5 hours contact with us, and on the double qualification, you'll have 10 hours contact with us. Both courses are unit-based, and the main difference in the courses is assessment. The double qualification is 100% coursework. That means no exams whatsoever. The single qualification is 66% coursework, which means one exam in the first year and one exam in the second year. In terms of topics covered, we cover pretty well the same sort of topics on both courses, and Joe's going to talk you through the different types of units we do on the course.
Yeah, so if I run through the single course first, because the single, basically the double then carries on from there. So on the single course, the first year is very heavily dominated with anatomy and physiology and sports coaching. So they're the two units that we cover in the first year. The anatomy and physiology is the exam. So that's what our students are examined on. And sports coaching is obviously where you're assessed as a coach, looking at things like the role of a coach, responsibilities of a coach. And that piece of work is done via coursework. One of the questions we get asked just linked to coaching is about sort of how you're assessed in terms of you practically. On our course, on Sport and Leisure, you are never assessed practically performing a sport. So that's one slight difference from A-level PE. Where we do assess you is your ability to coach someone else within that sport. So for example, if you were a footballer, we would never assess you as a footballer, but you would be assessed coaching someone else in football. The other units that we do on the single course in the second year, we look at things like sport development, sports organisations, and then things like nutrition follows on from that as well. On the double course, it starts off similar to the single course. So in the first year, we cover anatomy, physiology and coaching, but we also do current issues in the first year. So current issues looks at things like the media, technology, gender issues within sport, things like racism, why people do and don't participate in sport. But again, as Nancy mentioned, they're all coursework based on the double course. So the single course, like Nancy mentioned, there's some exams, some coursework. On the double course, 100% coursework all the way through both years.
So you may be thinking coursework, just sitting there doing writing all the time, and it's very, very different to that. In terms of coursework, we assess in many different ways. So it's not just written documentation. We might assess you, as Joe said, coaching somebody. There's a unit called exercise for specific groups where you may go out and work with a primary school or a group of disabled children. We do things like event management. So lots and lots of different ways. You might do a display, a presentation, all sorts of different things. Now we've got a question there. Is it beneficial for me to study 2 A-levels like biology and maths with sport, combining coursework and an exam? Joe, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so we have, obviously just thinking about the experience that we've had with students in the past, especially on the single course, we do have a lot of students who combine our single course with 2 A-levels. So for example, we've got students this year who are doing exactly that. So things like biology, some chemistry, some people doing maths, alongside single sport and leisure. The way we design the course as well, in the first year, like I said, it's half coursework, half examined. In the second year, you'll sit the exam in the January of the second year. So what that sort of gives you the luxury of, if you pass that exam in the January of the second year, you then wouldn't have any exams for us at the end of the second year, which is obviously when your exams are going to be in your A-level subjects. So that's sort of one reason why a lot of students like to put sport and leisure with 2 A-levels, because as long as they pass that exam in the second year, it gives them, they don't basically have any exams for us at the end of that second year.
And on the double course, we try and finish the course early for you to allow you additional time to concentrate on those other A levels. We find the students in the second year very, very motivated. And because we do lots of units where we're out and about doing things, that allows us the time to get through additional points and get finished. So it gives you extra time to concentrate on revising for your linear A levels. Somebody's asked how much contact time you actually get. In terms of the single course, it's like any other A level, it's 5 hours per week. And on the double course, it's 10 hours because you get 1 A level or 2 A levels. So it's exactly double the amount of time, okay? And that would be done alongside either the single course done alongside either 2 other A levels or the double course done alongside 1 other A level, because the normal choice when you come into college is to do 3 A levels. In terms of moving on from the course, we actually are ideal for moving on to level 3 apprenticeships, universities or employment. Lots of our students go into many different areas, not just specifically sport. We've got people who are in medicine, who are in pharmaceuticals, people who are working in engineering, marketing, business studies, accounting, as well as sports coaches, sports physios and the like. So lots of opportunities for people. One of the benefits of our course are the softer skills that we actually develop on the course with the opportunities we've actually put around. And that's one of the key things that make you a more rounded person, more employable, more likely to get a place at university. George, you want to chat about those softer skills a little bit?
Yeah, so obviously what we try and do is, if we're teaching any units that obviously allow us to do additional activities around them, also we try and do that as much as we can. So for example, all our second year students complete the level 3 sports leaders qualification. So that's sort of a nationally recognised level 3 coaching award. Again, that gives you UCAS points, so it gives you university points when you're applying for university, but it also gives you all the sort of skills that Nancy's mentioned in there. So things like confidence, communication. Our students tend to be quite organised because they're used to sort of delivering sessions and being prepared, obviously, if they're going out into the community to deliver sessions. As part of the higher sports leaders, we run a lot of events as part of that. So, for example, we have primary schools that will come into college and we'll run events for them. Obviously, we're having to do that slightly differently at the minute, but we're still building all those additional skills in there. We also do things like we have a leadership academy with some of the local secondary schools. So they'll bring students in to sort of try and develop their leadership skills, whilst it's allowing our students to obviously deliver those sessions, and they're obviously building on their leadership skills moving forward. So it does probably give you slightly more than some other A levels might do, and especially if you're applying for university, you'll have a lot of sort of opportunities and a lot of experiences that you can talk about, where some other students might not have had those opportunities depending on the subjects that they've studied.
And to join in on that, lots of our students come back from university and say how well they are set up to move on to university, because we teach them the research skills, but we make very, very independent learners. We're a perfect step between sort of high school, secondary school and university in developing you as independent people with the abilities to act on your own. And our students come back and say how well they do from that. Somebody's asked, are assignments quite big or are they broken down? We never ever give you one giant assignment, okay? Every unit we have is broken down into what are called learning objectives, and there are 4 learning objectives. So there are a minimum of 4 assignments per unit. Now, some of those learning objectives are broken down even further. Some of them might last in terms of 1 lesson, and we might do a piece of work that lasts 1 lesson and is handed in. It might last 4 lessons, it might last 2 weeks. It just depends, but you won't ever be given one giant big assignment. We break it down, we provide the support. And the thing about the support, it's not just in class, we also provide a lot of support out of class. You may already use Google Classrooms at home. During COVID particularly, we have advanced our use of IT significantly. We'd already used Google Classrooms. We're now using podcasts, videos, all sorts of things to support students. And they're just happening in our everyday teaching now. So even when you're at home, you can find notes, videos, information from us to get your assignments completed in time. Somebody has Somebody else has asked, are there any placements involved? We do a work placement every single year. All of our students on all of our courses complete at least 1 week's work experience. Now, obviously this year that's been more difficult due to COVID, but for the last 15 years that I've been at the college, every single one of my students has completed a work placement. And that's fantastic in itself, in that it gives you experience of the workplace. It's also really positive to write down on a CV or on a UCAS application. It's just more skills, more experience that you can actually sell to people. Okay, how much learning's done online? My current school uses Google Classroom, Joe.
Yeah, so we use Google Classroom for all our assignments. Obviously, depending on if you're out doing coaching, for example, obviously we video those sessions, and we'll do witness statements to sort of back up the sessions that you're delivering. So we use Google Classroom. We find it really beneficial for students. Obviously, we use Google Drive because obviously you can't not save the work. Obviously, we can see the live documents all the time. So Google Classroom has been really good for us because what we can do, obviously, in the lessons as well, is we can sort of drop into your live document and give you sort of feedback as you're working through those assignments. In terms of how much work we do online, a lot of it depends on what unit we're studying at the time. A lot of it will depend on obviously what the requirements of that unit are. So, for example, if you're doing sports coaching, the first and last bit of that unit, where you look at the roles of a coach and then you're sort of reviewing your sessions, they're done obviously online. But when you're physically coaching, we obviously just observe you while you're coaching, and we try and do as much as we can sort of practically as well. So one of the units that we teach, so in current issues, so things like racism, homophobia, we'll try and do as like presentations as well. So we're getting students, like we said, building those softer skills. And it's not just a case of sort of being sat there and working online all the time.
Okay, somebody's asked how many UCAS points do you get in a single compared to a double? A single is worth exactly half a double is worth. But in terms of points, they're graded as distinction star, distinction, merit, pass, and they're equivalent. The distinction star is equivalent to an A star, so 56 UCAS points on a single and 112 on the double. In terms of UCAS points, recognised like any other level 3 qualification, accepted by universities. We've got students who've gone to all of the major universities and had their applied subjects accepted, no problem. Most universities are actually just looking for a number of points. So what you need to do is actually play to your strengths. Pick subjects that you're going to enjoy, that are going to get you up on a cold, wet November morning and bring you into college, and enjoy them. The benefit with us is because it's coursework, you get feedback constantly, and therefore you do a piece of work, Joe and I write all over it, hand it back, you then take on that feedback, act on it, and your grade goes up. Last year, in terms of pass rates, we had 100% pass rate and we had 94% higher grades. That was 94% of our students achieved an A star, A or a B, which is fantastic. And that was across single and double. Question, do I have different teachers who specialise in different areas units? You absolutely do, because I don't own a pair of training shoes. I'll leave the coaching and the practical elements, like coaching, to Joe and the team. I do all the theoretical side of it. Isn't that correct, Joe? That's
the example I was going to use. Yeah.
So yeah, we do have specialists in some areas, and sometimes you just get a member of staff who favours a particular unit. I absolutely love exercise for specific groups and working with our community groups, whether it's disabled kids, older people, people with learning difficulties. So I tend to opt to do that unit. Joe, because of his background in sport and sports development, picks up those units. So we actually play to the specialists' experience, qualifications and everything, because we feel you get the best out of that. So yeah, you do get specialists in those particular areas. Somebody's just joined and said, what topics are on the syllabus? Do you want to give us an overview? I think this person was a bit late, Joe.
Yeah, so very quickly, so the single, in the first year, we only do 2 units. So those 2 units are body systems, which is anatomy and physiology, and sports coaching. So in the first year, they're the 2 units that our single sports students do. On the double course, they do both those 2 units. So still do anatomy and physiology and sports coaching. But our double students also do current issues. So current issues looks at things like racism, homophobia, why people do and don't participate in sport, and things like that. but mainly the first year on either course is anatomy and physiology and sports coaching are the main aspects in there.
The one thing I would say about the units and the topics, they're all very, very current. So everything we teach is pretty well what's happening in the sports industry and the sports world at the moment. So when we're moving on to do current issues, we look at the whole Black Lives Matter movement that happened this year and how that's impacted on sport. And people like Lewis Hamilton in Formula One. So very, very current topics. When we're looking at health and safety, again, we'll look at things like the Formula One driver who did 2 laps at nearly 200 miles an hour without wearing his seatbelt and the implications, etc. So we do try and make it very current, very up to date and very, very relevant. When I coach, somebody says, Joe, are there set sports or can I coach what I want? This person actually does judo.
Yeah, so one way that we obviously look at it, and it's something that we have a conversation about very, very early on in the course, as long as it's obviously a sport that would be recognised. So, for example, you couldn't use things like darts, snooker. Obviously, we can't use.
They aren't
games.
sports, Joe.
No, they're not sports. But obviously, we can't use those. But judo is a perfect example. We wouldn't run judo in college, but if you're someone who does judo outside of college and you have access to people you can coach, we'll just basically get the coach who's supervising that session to obviously do the witness statement, and they'll sign off to say that they've seen you delivering those sessions to like a certain standard. A good example this year, so I've got coaching with the single first year students this year. I've got 2 water polo players in there. I've got 2 girls who do horse riding. I'll try for other examples. But again, they all do that outside of college. So they're just getting their coaches to sign off to say that they've witnessed those sessions. So as long as you're doing that sport outside the college, then that's absolutely fine.
So that sounds like you've got a bit of a like timetable there, Joe. If all your kids are doing it outside, I'll have to get you some more work.
No, there's still plenty doing it inside.
So absolutely. We have had students who've asked about skiing before. Pretty well, we need a video if you do it outside of college, and there are certain limitations in terms of videoing, particularly if you want to do swimming. But if you can video it, we're more than happy for you to base it on your sport, because if it's your sport, you're likely to understand it better and get a higher grade. Okay, average class size. Our average class size is somewhere between 15 and 17. It tends to be about 60-40 male to female, and on the single groups, you tend to get 2 teachers. On the double groups, you tend to get 3 teachers over the 10 hours. So 2 teachers over the 5 hours, 3 teachers over the 10 hours. And that generally works quite well. So classes tend not to be much bigger than that because of the coaching aspects and things like that we have to do. What would be the difference between studying sport and leisure and PE? Main difference of sport and leisure is the coursework aspect. On the double 100% coursework, whereas PE is a linear A level with exams at the end of it, they do have a small content of coursework, but nowhere near as much as us. Also in PE, you have to be actively competing at a particular sport at club level and be able to be videoed at that club level. They ask for a minimum of 4 videos. We don't require you to be playing sport outside of college at any level. As Joe said, it's not about you as a performer, it's about you as a coach. So those are your 2 biggest differences. Anything else, Joe?
No, just to sort of put it into obviously context there as well with what we're saying. Obviously our double course, 100% coursework, single course is around 2/3 coursework, 1/3 exam. To flip that on its head the other way around, so A-level PE, you're looking at 70% is examined, so 30% non-examined. Half of that is coursework, half of that is you as a performer. So that's the major difference between the 2, is basically how you're assessed is the main difference.
Okay, another question, are there any costs on the course other than transport? If we do visits and things like that to particular places, some of these are optional and there is a cost incurred with that. Some of them are compulsory, and if they're compulsory, there shouldn't be a cost incurred with that. However, within college, if anybody has issues in terms of finance, we do have a fund to support students and anybody can access that. And if you go to our finance office, there is a form to complete and you may get all or some of the funding towards visits and trips, etc. Not being able to afford a visit or a trip shouldn't be a reason for you not to go. So you always need to come and talk to me and Joe. We can always sort something out. We put on trips and visits to enhance your experience, enhance your understanding. They are there for a reason, and we like people to be there. So if that becomes an issue, please pop and see us. There's always something we can do about that. Okay, Joe, do I have to have studied sport or PE or a BTEC to study at QE?
No, so in terms of our entry requirements for the course, it's just the general college entry requirements. So five passes at GCSE. We don't have any particular entry requirements in terms of having to do anything like you said, so GCSE, PE, sport, because when we come to teach it, especially from like an anatomy and physiology side, some students who've done BTEC might not have done anatomy and physiology, some have, it depends what sort of course you do, what sort of level that course is. So we teach everything from sort of a basic level, so you don't need to have studied, and we've got students who haven't studied GCSE, PE, BTEC sport, and are absolutely fine. So it's not going to put you sort of back in any position.
Okay, somebody's asked the question, what sports and things can I do at college? In terms of our course, we offer the High Sports Leaders qualification, which teaches you leadership skills and gains you additional UCAS points. We also offer you some basic level coaching qualifications through our Leadership Academy, but there are loads of opportunities in terms of sport. Joe's in charge of the sport management team in college. Do you want to round up sort of the recreational sport for us, Joe?
Yeah, so like Nancy mentioned, obviously recreational sport is where sort of we just turn up and play. So things that are on offer sort of on a lunchtime, mainly done on a lunchtime because obviously the timetable sort of restrictions there. But things like badminton, table tennis, dodgeball. We have quite a successful futsal league, which runs on a lunchtime, which attracts quite a lot of teams. And then also we also have like the team sports as well. But I know there is a webinar about the team sports later on tonight, so it might be worth popping into that one. But just to sort of give a bit of an overview, we do male and female football, basketball, rugby, and netball. They're the team sports that we offer, which is on a Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, so Tom's asked, if I do double, can I take only one other course? Yeah, Tom, so a double equates to the equivalent of 2 A levels, and you do one other subject alongside that. The benefits of doing a double course is that you only have one subject to concentrate on. You only have one set of vocabulary to use. You've got one set of deadlines for that course. So in terms of time management, etc., yes, it's one course, but it actually helps you as a student. We do have a lot of students who do the double qualification plus one other A level who have progressed on to either apprenticeships, universities, employment. It doesn't prevent anything like that happening. It's just a different way of learning. And because it's unit based, you're still doing lots of different things all the time. You're not just focusing on one thing constantly. Somebody else has asked what the exam board is. Now the exam board is OCR. And in terms of finding out more details about everything that Joe and I have said tonight, if you actually look on the college website, there is a huge amount of information, not just about sport and leisure, but every other A level and all the opportunities we offer in college. There is a general website, and within there you will find subject-specific websites. So you'll find out our website, and we have profiles of ex-students, what they've gone on to, the additional opportunities we offer you, an outline of the course and the unit structures, and it also contains information and sort of mini lessons that we actually deliver on the course. So a really nice way to find out a bit more about the course. The most positive thing is that the comments on there are actually from our students, not from us. Joe and I can sit here and say how fantastic we are and how fantastic everything is. But in real terms, what counts is what our students think and what our former students who've achieved think. So you've got students who go back a number of years. There's one on there who left from us 10 years ago, right up to students who left last year. So you've got a whole range of views, and you can see the wide, diverse group of careers that those people have actually gone on to. So it gives you all the details about the exam board, but everything else about the course on there as well. Well worth a look. Joe, how can I prepare ahead of starting QE?
Oh, good question. I think obviously, like you've just said, the website would be one of the best places to go to. And like I said, there is some sort of mini lessons on there which take you through some of sort of the bigger topic areas that we study. Obviously, one of the things that we will do this year as well will be bridging. Now, obviously, at the minute, we don't know what bridging will look like. But again, on there, that would be a really good opportunity to sort of get in, obviously have a look around the subject area. We can obviously give you some things there if you wanted to start having a look around certain topic areas. But again, I would say just try and obviously be researching as much sport as you can, try and watch as much sport as you can, because like Nancy mentioned earlier, when we're having sort of discussions in the classroom, the assignments that we're writing, we try and base it on the most relevant and up-to-date information that we can. So I would say having like a really good sort of insight into the sporting world at the minute, that's going to put you in a really sort of strong position moving forward.
Okay, somebody else has said, could I study sport with 3 other A levels? I'm quite good at coursework. Now, when you actually come into college, the normal offer from any student is to do 3 A levels in total. However, every student is viewed as an individual, and we look at every student's exam results and ensure that if they've got an absolutely outstanding set of results and they want to do 4 A levels, there is the potential there, but that would be a one-to-one discussion based on your individual results. Now, I do know currently we do have one student who is doing sport and 3 other A levels, but they came in with an absolutely outstanding profile of GCSEs. So it is based on your GCSE results, because the last thing we want to do is set you up to fail. So we're looking for providing you with a course that suits you, meets your needs, and allows you to progress on into life. It's basically a stepping stone to your future, whether it's university, apprenticeships, or employment. And we need to make sure that you can actually access those things. So I'm not saying no, but I'm not saying yes. It depends on you, depends on your results, and depends on that conversation that we actually have at the time. But good luck. We'd love to have you if you want to do 3 other A levels and us. Results, Joe. Tell us about results, how good they've been.
So last year, I think we mentioned it earlier on, but we had 100% pass rate. It's basically Nancy won't let you leave until you've passed, so you've got no chance. And with 94% of our students left with high grades last year. So high grades classed as anything distinction, distinction star. So 94% of our students who left last year, like we said earlier, did get a high grade at the end of the course, which is distinction or distinction star.
And last year we had students go on to engineering apprenticeships. We had them going straight into employment. We had them going to university at Newcastle, Northumbria, Leeds, Loughborough. We had them going all over pretty well. Some have gone on to do straightforward sporting things like sports coaching, sports management. We had somebody head towards pharmaceuticals, other people doing marketing, business, etc. Engineering was another one. We've even had somebody who, having done double sport and PE, went on to be a doctor. So it's very, very different to how education used to be. It is a stepping stone to your future. Play to your strengths. If you're good at coursework, if you love sport, this is a very good option for you. Our students do really, really well out of it every single time. We seem to have a good rapport with our students and be able to get them to do things that possibly they wouldn't normally. Hence we get 94% higher grades. They are fantastic students and they leave not just with that outstanding qualification, but it's the whole package that we put around that that's really beneficial. And one of the things that the college is outstanding for is not just turning out well-qualified students, it's turning out well-qualified, well-rounded students with so much more to offer to an employer or university. And we do that through all of the additionality, all of the experiences and all the skills that you learn. Would this be a good route for PE teaching at primary or secondary level, Joe?
Yeah, so that, like you mentioned earlier, is one of the bigger areas that we have students progress onto. So straight away I can think of 4 or 5 students last year who some did double sport, some did single sport, who are now doing sort of maybe sports science, doing sports coaching at university, but their aim is to do PE teaching, obviously to finish university and then do what's called a PGCE, and then go into teaching that way. So we have a lot of students who PE teaching is their sort of ultimate aim, who've left us, gone to university to do sports related courses, and are sort of on the way to do that. And also students who've gone down that route and obviously finished university and are now obviously working as full-time PE teachers, some in secondary schools, some in primary schools as well. So there is
some gone down the
different
route of apprenticeships as well. There's 2 from last year I can think of. They've gone into start apprenticeships with schools to allow them to become teachers. It's an alternative way. It didn't used to happen. You don't automatically have to go to university now to become a PE teacher. And again, that's what our course offers you, opportunities into that. The students who've done that are students who actually work with those schools on some of our units, so it does not open opportunities. So that brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. If you want more information, please have a look on the college website. There are more webinars tomorrow around supplementary programme and things like that. Lots more information. So log on and find out what you need to know. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you soon.